Good morning, everyone. My background was partnership was a little bit stifling. I really wanted to set up something which was a little bit different with a slightly more innovative business model. So I set up Cubism in 2007. Why Cubism? Really two reasons. Firstly, I'm Spanish originally. I come from the northwest part of Spain. And secondly, I think one of the skills that I learned as a lawyer was really, once I understood the facts and what something was about, was really bringing a creative approach to solving problems. So Cubism, set up in 2007. We're a full-service law firm focused on the SME market. We operate a fairly unique business model, which is we recruit top lawyers with their own practice and help them to grow and develop their business under our brand. The reason I think that's important is each lawyer runs their own practice, runs their own profit centre, which really means that they tend to take a much more sort of commercial approach to the way that they do business. For me, in terms of crowdfunding, I think it's one of the most exciting, emerging and expanding areas of business and corporate finance. I'm really hoping that today, with all the different people around, we'll get to communicate really what we see as the future within crowdfunding, where it is and where it can potentially go. So what is basically crowdfunding? It's the funding of a project or business venture by raising small amounts of money from a large group of people. How is it obtained? It's normally obtained via a platform. So via the platform really takes the project or the business venture to market and looks to find investors, either in terms of a loan or in terms of an equity stake in the business. Generally, there are two forms of crowdfunding. Firstly, the major part of crowdfunding at the moment is the debt model, where investors jointly provide a loan to businesses, which is really by way of a peer-to-peer lending. Secondly, which I think is by far the most exciting, is the equity model, where effectively investors are encouraged to go out and, in essence, invest in an SME business. Now, at Cubism, probably 70 to 80% of our business is focused on SMEs. And I think where we are probably quite different from other businesses is we spend a lot of time getting to know, understand our clients, our SMEs, and really helping them to grow and develop their business. And it's really from that, I see crowdfunding as being a really positive way in which a business can grow. And just from my own meetings with clients, I generally tend to, after I've met them and got to know them, really sort of mark where I think their future lies. Is this a business that I think eventually is going to become investable from third parties? And generally speaking, I think with most of the clients or people I meet, I tend to try to understand what's the key issue in their business, what's the thing that's really blocking them from perhaps growing and developing. And I've come up with really sort of 6 or 7 areas where I think, where I sort of see as the issues that they may have that we could perhaps help them to develop. Firstly, there's what I call the conservative or the grey businesses. They're just really quite boring. They haven't got particularly ambitious plans. They haven't really got a vision. They're really just a business that's looking to sort of grow and develop and mature in quite a sort of general fashion. Secondly, they're the ones that I call the blind pews. They're really businesses that have got that vision, they've got that drive, but they've got a blind spot. There's something in the way that they're running that business they're just missing. The directors or the people in charge of the business don't necessarily know a certain aspect which is really hindering their growth. Thirdly, there's the downtrodden. These are just businesses that have got tired. They've started off with a great idea, a great vision, but along the way, running a business has just slowly but gently tired them. Fourthly, there's the dishonest. There are some businesses that you see, their business plan, they're exciting businesses, but they somehow just leave you with this feeling that it's almost too good to be true. The sort of returns that they're projecting for franchisees or for people that want to invest just don't really make sense. Fifthly, there's the uncertain. Somehow along the line, they don't really know what they're doing. It's really quite hard to sort of get to the bottom of what it is that they're trying to do, how they're looking to develop and to grow their business. Finally, the ones that really excite me are the entrepreneurs, are the ones that you just get a sense from the meeting. They just leave you feeling engaged. They tell their story, And from that story, you just know they're going to go somewhere. And it's those businesses that I think can really, really benefit from crowdfunding, because effectively, it's really about telling a story of where have you been, where are you going, how are you going to get there, and persuading people to invest in your business either by way of a loan or to actually take some form of equity. So why is crowdfunding so exciting? Well, firstly, it's a huge and proven market for raising investment, particularly on the debt side. The equity side is still quite young. Industry research that's grown from a 2.1 billion business in 2012 to 6.7 billion in 2013 to over 16 billion in 2014. So there is a proven market for investment. Is it a proven market for returns? Well, it's just too early to say. Most of the businesses, especially on the equity side, they just haven't got long enough to be able to get their returns. And generally, when you look at the websites, it is promoted as a high-risk investment, but potentially the rewards can be great. So what do I see as the emerging issues? Firstly, it's a relatively new, relatively untested market. Some people have described it as the Wild West. You need to be very careful in terms of seeing businesses and selecting the businesses that you think are really going to grow and develop. Secondly, there's the PR risk of failing to make the investment. Sometimes you look on the websites and there are businesses that have just managed to get 1 or 2% of the total investment that's required. It doesn't really give you a lot of faith in that business and the story that they're telling. Thirdly, unsophisticated investors. People that just buy the story, but when something subsequently doesn't really work out, they're then going to say, well, what happened there? Fourthly, mercenary platforms. So the question is going to be around the fact, to what extent is a platform going to truly investigate the opportunity and only put to market those opportunities that they genuinely believe in? Fourthly, the exit, the dilution or erosion of share value potentially. Normally they'll be given B shares with just a minimal amount of control or say in the business. They'll just be communicated and told what it is that the business is doing. Probably the biggest risk is the unknown industry returns. Because it's such a young investment, we just don't know what the long-term returns of the business model will be. Fifthly, if there are problems, will the regulators get too involved? Will there be so much regulation that effectively the emerging market just dies? And finally, we've seen historically where people have made investments in terms of pensions or in terms of other types of schemes, there's always the threat of litigation, that somehow something was missold. So what do I see as the future trends? I think one of my biggest concerns is really the ability or the inability for someone to really control their exit from a crowdfunding proposition, especially an equity model. So I really see there's an opportunity for crowdfunders to develop platforms where effectively you would be able to exchange or sell shares. Secondly, due diligence. To what extent is any real due diligence carried out when you put a business to market? And for me, it's going to be those businesses that do carry out the due diligence where you can genuinely say this is a really top proposition, where you will build a brand as a platform in bringing to market top-class businesses. Thirdly, managed crowd investments, so effectively companies that put together propositions to invest in certain select bands. So effectively, you're looking for a third party to advise you or follow a third party that themselves are looking to invest in the business. I think an emerging area will be group litigation potentially, where for schemes that have come to market that somehow haven't worked, and also the risk of increased regulation to protect investors. So in many ways, I think crowdfunding is an enormous opportunity for businesses. It allows you to get to market, to test your story, to test your model, and to get a true independent valuation of what that business is worth. And in my feeling, it's that those platforms and advisors that set a very, very high bar for the business that they take on, that really do the due diligence, that can show in 3, 5, 7 years' time proven returns that they've managed to achieve from the businesses that they put to market, that will build brands that will be of enormous value. In the end, the question that really interests me is, with crowdfunding, will the wisdom of the crowd, people coming together to buy an investment, outperform the investments made by corporate investors and their intelligence? Thank you.